Okay, so a question I always get is, hey, how do I choose the right YouTube advertising agency or the right freelancer? Often we have clients that come to us and, perhaps they don't have the budget to work with us, they're just starting out, but they still want some help with YouTube ads and they want to they ask me, hey, do you have any tips for how to choose the right person or the right agency? So I have a unique perspective on this because I run an YouTube ad agency, and as much as I want to say just hire us, I'm going to give you a real answer. And the questions that you need to ask them to actually make sure that you're hiring a great agency. So the first tip, you want to ask them to screen share their accounts with you. Usually they'll blur out the account name, client name, completely fine, but ask them to give you a walkthrough of that account, explain what's being sold, explain what the funnel looks like, explain what the metrics are, and so on. I would definitely tell them, hey, you can blur out the client info and so on because that's really important. But at the same time, you do want to see actual numbers and you want to hear them talk about it. And then when you're hearing them talk about it, you'll get a good idea of how much they actually know and don't know. And again, if somebody's managing a big account and they can authoritatively talk about it for 5 or 6 minutes, it shows that, okay, they're really involved in this account. What you don't want is somebody's showing you a screenshot of their business manager with a bunch of ad spend, because it could be, a business manager they have access to, but they don't run ads for. You want them to actually walk you through this ad account and the metrics and the numbers and, the challenges they had, how they overcame those challenges, etc. So you want them to dive in a bit deeper into this ad account. So that's tip number 1, get actual proof and get them talking through the account, not just screenshots, because actual proof will give you an idea how they think, how they deal with issues with ads, and so on. Number 2, ask them for some of the, ask them to show you their SOPs, ask them to show you how they run their agency. If a client asks us, hey, can you show us some of your SOPs? Yeah, I will show it because it's really easy. I know they're not going to be able to copy it. I know they don't even know how it was set up. Obviously, it's something that we use internally. So it's, showing a minute of how these SOPs are structured gives the client the proof that we know what we're doing. Now, the reason for this, especially when hiring an agency, is because there are a lot of agencies that are started by founders who are awesome at ads, but awful at running businesses and scaling operations. Because the biggest obstacle to running an agency is you need to be able to transfer your knowledge as the founder of the agency into your employees and make sure that quality is kept up. So really great agencies will do far better than a freelancer. If you look at a really great paid ads agency, they'll have teams of people who are just exceptional, and they have the internal structure and the SOPs to make sure that the clients are taken care of really, really well. So be sure to ask an agency, hey, how do you guys ensure quality is kept up? What are your SOPs like? Can we, take a quick look at them? They can just send you a screen share and so on. I don't see an issue with that because with a 30-second or 1-minute screen share of these SOPs or internal structures, you're not actually going to be able to copy anything, and it shows proof that they have organization and structure. And this is very, very important because there are always agencies started by founders who are awesome at sales or awesome at ads, but they don't know how to transfer that knowledge into their team. And that could lead to situations where the top tier clients are being handled by the founder himself, while the clients who are less important are being handled by the team members who don't really know what they're doing. So very important to get an idea of what their SOPs look like. Now, to give you an example, at our agency, we have teams of 3 people. We have an account manager whose job it is to communicate to the client and project manage the project. We have a senior media buyer whose job it is to lead strategy on the media buying front and basically just be the leader for media buying. And then we have a junior media buyer who picks up the slack from the senior media buyer, makes sure they're not overwhelmed, and is basically an assistant for the account and is always helping the senior media buyer. And the senior media buyer is always supervising the junior media buyer. So we have teams of 3 that work on each account. So that's our structure. So you want to ask them, hey, what does your team structure look like? And how do they interact with each other? Another really good question to ask is, hey, how do you vet the people you hire? How do you hire your media buyers? And I know these questions sound like, why do these questions matter? But if they have good answers to these questions, I can guarantee that you're going to have a far better experience than somebody who just gives you a vague answer like, oh yeah, we only hire the best. Like if you ask me, how do you hire media buyers for basically my agency? How do I hire contractors, media buyers, etc.? We have a multi-stage process, and I actually made a video about this. It's called How to Hire Rockstar Media Buyers that you can check out. But basically the gist of it is, if you ask them about the SOPs, how the team is structured, and how they hire, you have a really great idea of whether this agency knows what they're doing or not, and how consistent their service delivery would be. So to summarize, when hiring an agency, one of the biggest things is to just basically ensure that their structure, their SOPs, and their hiring is on point. One of the big mistakes you really want to avoid is hiring a guru agency where the guru knows what they're doing and the guru is really great at sales and marketing, but the juniors and so on don't know what they're doing. Now, I'm not saying all guru agencies are like that, but sometimes you'll have these big names, and we'll have people who work with these big names tell us that, hey, yeah, those guys were not that great. So because of that reason, I would highly suggest asking those questions. Now, the reason this happens is being able to fulfill work at scale is much different than being able to do it yourself. When you're by yourself, you control everything and so on. Now, when you're a team, it requires a lot of work to ensure that you can get a high quality of work out of them. It takes a lot of work to ensure you hire the right people. It takes a lot of work to ensure that all of your clients are being serviced well. So because of that reason, it's extremely important to just ask those questions before you take on an agency. Now, with hiring a freelancer, it's a lot easier. You're basically figuring out, hey, are they legitimate or not? Or are they able to deliver good work or not? The one thing with a freelancer that I would really, really advise you to kind of be careful with is to ensure that basically they have enough capacity. Same thing with agencies. You want to ask them how much capacity do they have? How many clients do they think they can bring on? So if they're already at 90% capacity and they're already pretty busy, you're not going to be their top priority. So you want to kind of get a feel for how much capacity they have. And you can do this by asking them questions like, hey, I just want to ask you, how many clients do you have right now? And how many clients do you feel you could take on? If they tell you they could take on 2 or 3 more clients, then you know that, okay, there's a solid chance that they will have a lot of time for you and ensure you get a good quality of service. If they say, yeah, I can take on just 1 more client, then it's kind of a bit iffy. Like, you could still give them a try, but just keep that in the back of your mind if it seems like service delivery isn't that great. So yeah, I hope this video was really useful for you. And also, if you're interested, check out my in-depth 26-page guide to YouTube ads targeting. I'll link to that in the description or the comments below. And yeah, thanks for watching the video. Cheers.
Walk with our feet on the ground, and we will talk with our head in the clouds, and we will walk with our feet on the ground, and we will talk with our head in the clouds.